Phil Bennett, longtime college football coach, joins us today on 365 Sports. And Phil, it's like the film don't lie, and we saw some things. We saw a couple of teams we thought would be pretty good that have, things are going on. Let's start with that Texas-Ohio State game. Did Ohio State get in Sark and Arch's head with what Patricia did on the defensive side of the ball?
I really think, Smoke, that what I looked at, knowing and playing Sark, I thought he called the game very cautious.
Yeah.
And that could, and I thought about this. It could be for two reasons. It could be, the pro stuff that Patricia's done, but it could also have been, trying to groom Arch, giving him things that would give him confidence early. But obviously he was very conservative, and I think it hurt him. But also I think Arch wasn't on rhythm. It really didn't have, everybody wanted to get down on him, but I still think he can be a good quarterback. He just didn't, that wasn't the game. And I think that the other thing you look at is they had some crucial penalties, on defense that could have really been a game you walk out there saying, boy, our defense won this game for us. But the penalties hurt them. But that's what I saw. I thought Patricia did a really good job. I went back and I looked. They kept the secondary coach. They kept the corner coach. So there was a lot of guys that were on that staff last year, and they did most of the things that they had done in the previous years.
If Arch Manning was my starting pitcher, Phil, and I walked out to the mound in the middle of that game, I'd have been like, what's with all these weird arm angles you've got going on? Like, it just felt like he kind of got in his head a little bit, and then his mechanics, maybe more so than anything, changed. And for the great ones, that's kind of, especially a Manning, the mechanics, that's just always what they fall back on, is like, okay, this isn't going well, but if I do everything physically I'm supposed to do, then it'll be fine.
Paul, I thought that's a good observation. Now, I will say this. You go back and look at him last year against Mississippi State, the games he played in. He is a little bit of a whipper. I mean, he's sort of a sidearm whip guy with great velocity. But, there were so many of the balls that he didn't set his feet. First play of the game, they ran a bubble, a now out there. He threw it behind. His accuracy was really poor in the game. And that's the thing that got him off to such a bad start. The other thing that in the game, he had two or three times that the routes, Ohio State did a good job in coverage, that he could have taken off. But he chose to stay longer and took the sack. And I think that hurt him a lot.
Coach, man, so many different directions we can go here, but I guess I'll choose to go the direction of Florida State and Alabama. How impressed were you by what you saw from the Noles and their new quarterback there in Castellanos, his ability to run? And are you sounding the alarm on I guess the dynasty ended when Saban retired, but for those that thought it might just continue on because DeBoer would just pick up, are you sounding the alarm on the idea that Alabama will just cruise for forever and ever?
Greg, the first thing that I'm going to point out is Gus Malzahn has a history of beating Alabama. and I'm going to tell you why he has a history. Last week, and David, you remember this, all of you, we talked about Coach Aranda talking about when he was at LSU that he didn't have to worry as much about schematics because of the guys that he had. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Nick Saban called me when I was at Baylor, wanted to have a big clinic of our staff, defensive staff, and his defensive staff. And I was curious. I said, what do you, he goes, Phil, I know that our league has been a pretty much cookie cutter league. Everybody does the same thing. We don't spread the field out. We don't tempo it. We don't do the quarterback run game. And he said, it's coming. He goes, I want to be ready. He said, and so I look at Florida State and what they did with the quarterback run game, just like I watched Auburn beat Baylor with a quarterback run game, with the power zone. And schematically, those things even up things. Art Browse used to tell me, he said, Phil, if we can't block them, I'll make them where we have free people, where our backs. I'll make them indecisive in their fits, and it helps our offensive line. And we had one year we had 3,000-yard rushers. So I think you're seeing that from Florida State. I'm not willing to give up on Alabama. I think that the coordinator is. I think the quarterback will get better. Defensively, they'll get better. I think this scheme really gave him fits. I think Gus's Reed quarterback and Castellano did a good job, but I also think they sort of tricked them a little bit with that.
When I remember when Malzahn actually visited Baylor. In 15 or so to learn some of that. Not that he didn't already have his own ways, but I remember when he came in because I sat down and talked with him about everything. So I know that there's ways and you don't have a success here after you have success here. Why is it then he has had success? And it's not just Alabama. He's won elsewhere. Do you think he was refreshed by getting away from UCF and having just to worry about the offense or not?
Absolutely. Gus is a football. I mean, he's a purist. And when I say purist, he loves the schematics. He loves the fundamentals. He was frustrated with the speaking and the presentations and raising funds. And he was frustrated. He's a coach. That's what he wanted to do. And, he's the guy that basically taught Mike Norvell everything. It was Todd Graham hired him. Mike was on the staff, and those guys all had a bond, and they all he's very creative. I played against him a couple of times, and it was he's fun to try to defend, and he's good. And I think if you don't understand numbers, which a lot of people, I say this again, I told you that story, Smokey, when Nick wanted me to come down there and all meet, and Art said, absolutely not. You're not going. But that's what Art could do. I mean, that's what people didn't understand. I mean, we could lose a whole line and come back and rush for 220 yards in a game.
Mm-hmm. Phil, when you look at what Notre Dame and Miami did last night, that was two really physical teams. Corey Hetherington comes in from Minnesota. Miami defense was abysmal last year, but they're physical and tough. And I know Notre Dame lost.
Very sound.
Yeah, I know Notre Dame lost the game, but I came away feeling better about them down the stretch, the way that C.J. Carr responded when they needed him to play his best ball.
I thought it was the best game of the weekend. I mean, it was nip and tuck, and you saw kids. You're right. You saw kids get better during the game. Notre Dame lost a lot of defensive guys too, and they got better and tougher. And you saw the rebirth of the quarterback from Georgia. In my opinion, he was the difference in the game. Him and the receivers and the two ends at Miami. There were some difference makers in that game, and I think by no stretch is Notre Dame done for the year. I mean, Notre Dame's going to be a good football team. I agree with you.
Do you feel confident in saying, and again, we're talking about one game, but do you feel confident that Brian Kelly has the LSU defense's mojo back there in Baton Rouge?
No, I don't, and I'm going to tell you why. I was extremely disappointed in Clemson's offensive attack. I watched them against Texas, and Cade and what he did, and the people and how they called the game. They spread it. They used different tempos. They did none of that in this game. And after the game, I looked it up and listened to Sweeney's explanation. He said, "Well, we had some younger receivers and running, but we're trying to be a little bit, and I thought they hampered their quarterback. I really did. I thought that if they would have opened it up, I think they could have taken advantage of some things that LSU was doing. I think LSU is going to have a problem down the road being sound in run fit, and a couple of different things. I'm not sold on him right now.
Phil, you mentioned while we were talking about another game, but you mentioned what Hugh Freeze and Auburn did. They slammed the ball right down Baylor's throat. Today I was at Dave Aranda's Monday media session. I asked him about the spy. Why was there not a spy? And I can't hear anything very well, but he basically said that the way that they were set up, and I never really, like, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
That's what it was. He said if they didn't do that, then they're just going to start throwing it probably over the top of those receivers.
With All-American, probably a first-round pick at receiver, and Cam Coleman, and then you got Singleton. What did you see? It's almost like if I'm going to die, I don't want somebody gouging me for 300 yards rushing.
I thought the first thing that I thought, David, that I saw that, you know, the scrambles I could sort of live with. That happened. They missed a couple of tackles. You had some guys beat some people and miss plays. I think number 9, is there a number 9 Baylor tackle? I mean, he broke through, missed it. Now the power reads where they ran the jet reads and he scored and those things. That's schematics. You got to practice that. I was disappointed that Baylor didn't do anything. There was no kind of field pressure or change up. They didn't move people. They didn't run their linebackers through. That's how you counteract those things. I didn't see any stop calls. The one guy that was hurting them, the one guy in the run game, I think it was 137 yards, was a quarterback. And there's things you can do in that power. You know, when Art and them used to run it and we had RG3, I say, you're going to give the ball on that wide run because we're going to crash down and we're going to hold for the quarterback. That's who he's always reading somebody. If the guy's taking the other guy, he's keeping it. And we didn't seem to have a rule that we had practiced that. Now, I'd played Hugh Freeze when I was at North Texas, and he was at Liberty, and that was a huge play for him. I was just surprised that Baylor was not better prepared for that.
Phil, did you get a chance to see any of Tennessee this week when they
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
What Joey Aguilar had to deal with in the spring was not of his own making at all. Like he's getting ready to be the quarterback at UCLA, and then somebody who they think is better than him decides that he wants to be the quarterback at UCLA, and they just had to let him go after they went and recruited him and everything. I thought watching him play was really kind of awesome.
Let me tell you something. I bet you Josh Heupel is glad. That's the best quarterback play they've had since Milton was there. I mean, hands down. I mean, that kid's a winner. And he was impressive. Now, I also watched the other one. And they probably, that kid that's the offensive coordinator at UCLA was our quarterback at Pitt. And I'm sure he's thinking, uh-oh, I picked the wrong guy.
Coach, I want to go back to the question about Baylor because they have SMU this week, and that's a team. Rhett Lashley, Miranda made mention that they're going to see a lot of stuff they saw against Auburn against SMU. In Dallas, I don't know that atmosphere is going to be like that big of a factor, but you never know. Did you walk out of that game feeling less than expected about them, or is it a matter of just cleaning up some things and you think there's something to work with there? And how do you think they try and fix things ahead of a Rhett Lashley offense?
I think number one, I liked their effort. I thought they played hard on both sides of the ball. I thought there were some things, a couple of penalties on offense, drop ball, right before, I think it was before halftime when I think it was number 1 or 9, the seam route, what probably would have scored. I just don't ever think they ever got in a groove on either side of the ball. And obviously, when you have a kickoff, that was a game changer. But with that said, I told a friend of mine, I said, Baylor and it reminded me a lot of the LSU game. Baylor did enough things to win, but they did way too many things wrong to win. I mean, they did some things late in the game. The quarterback waited late to get going. I thought that our routes when we started, we could run the same routes forever on them. And I thought that the run that we went down to the, I think, 2 or 3 yard line and got called back, those kill you. And that I really believe could have overcome the defense. So, yeah, I think, no question, I think this game is a really good matchup. I watched the highlights of SMU against East Texas A&M. I think that's what they call it now. But, they're a good team. But I can remember when I was at SMU playing Baylor, and it was a 10-9 game. And, this game is probably as close athletically as it was back then. And then, of course, when we were at Baylor, we never had a problem beating SMU. And I think SMU is a formidable opponent, but I think Baylor can get back on track.
How much do they hate the schools in Texas that SMU? One, that when they did grow into the Big 12, they were left out. Of course, so was TCU, so was Houston. But how much of that is they cannot wait?
They don't like Baylor.
Yeah.
They don't. They don't like Baylor. They don't like Baylor.
That's what I was getting at.
It goes back history. Methodist and Baptist. They call Methodists cheap Episcopalian. Because a Baptist, if they smell liquor on your breath on Sunday, they'll report you. With a Methodist, they'll just say, "Hey, you know what? My wife's Episcopalian." So it's crazy but they don't like each other. When I was at SMU, there was a how'd Baylor get in, and it was always that Ann Richards story. That's how they got in, and we got left out.
Yeah. By the way, did you know that James Lockhart is now coaching at brand new UT Rio Grande Valley, who won their first ever game? I saw that.
I did know that. Brian Campbell, who I offered, he was an all-conference linebacker at A&M. I knew, of course, you remember his dad, Lucky.
Oh, he's nuts.
Lucky was Alto.
Nuts. Yeah,
he was nuts. But I'm going to tell you, Brian was a great player. I offered Brian when he was in ninth grade when I was at A&M. And, I've sort of helped him with their stuff. Mike Schultz is the offensive coordinator down there. He was Franchione's coordinator both at TCU and A&M. And he was the head coach at Lamar. So they have a really good staff.
My last question, and I know, Paul, you have some too. Phil Bennett, again, longtime college football coach. Mondays to kind of overview and look at what he saw over the weekend. We had Todd Whitten on just recently from Tarleton State, and they're trying to move up the food chain, as you know, and they go to West Point. And I bring this up as a great win. He said the best win in that program's history, which I get. They're at West Point. He had 8 out of every 10 players on his defense that he was walking around during practice had not seen the triple option. And they were able to handle it because I know that's like walking into Chinese or some kind of a foreign language if you don't know it.
Doing Chinese arithmetic.
Yep.
I told him if Emory Billard's ghost heard him, he would
he'd be devastated.
He'd be haunting Tarleton's halls right now. Saying what I do.
It's amazing when you put rules together and simplify. I got to watch some of the game, and I'm telling you, they forced some issues, and you know what? He did a good job offensively. Also, they took advantage because they knew they weren't always going to have the ball. What happens in games like that? Your time of possession gets all discombobulated. And he took advantage of hitting some big plays, and he had some long drives that kept the ball away from them. Listen, Todd Whitten, when he was at I think he was at Sam Houston, I begged him to come to SMU and be my offensive coordinator. And unfortunately, at that time, he was going through a divorce and just couldn't do it. I think he's a really good football coach.
That's an SFA guy.
Yeah. Do you remember Jim Hess?
He brought him up on the interview during the interview. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Jim Hess, he's a disciple of Jim Hess. And Jim Hess was one of the finest football coaches that's ever been in the state of Texas.
I agree.
He played at Rice. He coached at San Angelo. Then he went to SFA. Then he went to New Mexico State. One of the few people that ever won consistently at New Mexico State.
Yeah, he won a national title with Angelo State, then came to SFA and took them to a hell of a run. And then Lynn Graves took over that program.
Exactly.
Paul?
Sure did.
So, Coach, you're fighting Texas Aggies. Found some receivers very clearly. Look, I thought Jeff Traylor took it to them very physically early, and that's something that they're going to have to get worked out against the run. But if they can throw the ball around like that, they're going to be really dangerous.
I thought they both receivers were good, but I'll tell you something. I thought Jeff and them did a tremendous job. They had a punt return just like Baylor had a kickoff return. They had a punt return that broke the game open, that literally sort of got him off. You know, UTSA kept the ball, Paul, most of the game. They kept it away from him, and A&M did. Their receiver Concepcion and the kid from Mississippi State, they were good. And I thought the quarterback was sound. A&M's got to be. I'll tell you something. They'll have their hands full. That A&M Notre Dame game in 2 weeks could really be a big one. But I thought the quarterback at A&M played well.
Hey, we didn't ask you this when you took your trip to Europe and you did all the stuff. You told us about obviously the beaches and then the history there of the World War and then the Eiffel Tower and all of that in between. Was there a place that you ate some food that you wish was in America? Oh, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. There was a place in Rome that it was crazy. It wasn't, how do you say it? It wasn't total pasta, but they do such an unbelievable job with seafood and pasta and bread that, now don't ask me to spell the name, but we found everything we looked at over there, we had requisites about where we were eating. So, it was all good. And, my wife was just telling my daughter, by the way, my daughter, Maddie Passwaters, is 35 years old today.
Wow.
And I'm going to tell you a quick story. 35 years old, I was getting ready to play Washington. I was at Purdue. And you know who their quarterback was? Mark Brunell. How about that?
How about that? Yeah. The lefty.
And he was hell.
Yeah.
And Terry Johnson, an all Big Ten safety for me, played his you-know-what off and ended up tipping the ball at the end of the game. I think we lost by 3 on a field goal at the very end. But, no, every place over there was good. They have good that we were at was good.
Hey, man, enjoy. It's here. College football is here. Got a game
it's
tonight.
Here.
TCU and Bill Belichick.
Yeah, listen, that's a game I'm going to watch with great interest. I think TCU is going to be better than people think they are. And Randy Clements is on the TCU staff, and they're playing a team that I think, did you guys read this? Where UNC has 70 new players.
Oh,
70.
A bunch. Yeah.
So I don't know. They got the South Alabama quarterback. It'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to watching it.
Did you watch the quarterback at Utah late Saturday night? Did
you know what? I did. He played good.
Yeah. The transfer.
Yes.
Devin
Dampier. And I even saw like Matt Leinart said he's their version of Kyler Murray, which
yes, he is.
Okay.
He was good.
Yeah. They got
I'm going to tell you this. UCLA had no chance on defense. None. I mean, he was – you're going to look around more and more, and those people that can extend plays and move, if you can't, I'm going to tell you something. I was surprised. You talk about the LSU Clemson game. Nussmeier has better movement than I thought he did. He really does.
It's a great win for Brian
Kelly. He keeps plays
Kelly.
alive.
Yep. I just love those games, those what we call bangers, like Clemson, LSU, and Ohio State, Texas, and others that we saw.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm excited this week for the Baylor SMU game. Because I'm telling you, SMU thinks they can beat them. And you know, I sort of got fired up. I saw Aranda get pissed off. He got sort of into it. He's going to have to do that more and just do a better job on the – don't let that quarterback beat them the way they did Saturday or Friday.
Yeah, Jennings, the quarterback at SMU. Yeah.
You know, I just came and I'm not. This is not a knock on Hugh Freeze. Like I really wanted it. Like I was curious to see how he would attack things, or like what is different. You know, that you have a much more talented quarterback than he's had his first 2 years at Auburn, but because they could just run the ball at will. I mean, he didn't really have to even flip his play card over half the time.
No.
It just kind of was like, all right, well, I'm not going to go in the bag if I don't have to.
You know, Paul, the truth of the matter is the running backs didn't. I mean, they ran okay. Mm-hmm. But when you get a quarterback averaging almost 10 yards a damn carry, I mean, that's a killer.
Mm. Yeah, it's demoralizing. Yep.
Yeah, and still, think about this. If, to me, and you guys tell me if you agree, I thought last year Baylor was better than LSU and should have won that game. Too many missed opportunities. That was a replica game against Auburn, in my mind. Anybody that tries to tell me Auburn just came in and bullied him, that's bullshit. They didn't bully him. They schemed him.
That's why we have you on right there. That's why we have you on. Thank you very much.
Some of those A&M people tell me SEC they didn't bully nobody.
Yeah, no.
You know, I'll tell you this: Jackson, the quarterback, Arnold, he did the same thing to Alabama and rushed I think he rushed for 170 yards.
Oh, in that big upset to close out the year last year, right?
Yeah.
Hey, man, it's great to see you. We got a great
All right,
pick
guys.
of you. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Phil Bennett.